Arranging a funeral. Before appointing a funeral director, it's worth checking if they are registered with a recognised professional organisation. For example, the National Association of Funeral Directors or the National Society of Allied and Independent Funeral Directors, or both. Funeral directors must provide a standardised price list so that you can accurately compare costs between different firms. An itemised quote should include the funeral director's services, the price of individual items, such as a coffin and orders of service, removal of the deceased from where they died, and their subsequent care before the funeral, a hearse to the chosen crematorium, church or cemetery, and the appropriate number of staff to carry the coffin. Is the cost of a limousine included? And all the necessary arrangements and paperwork. There will be extra fees for third parties, such as the crematorium, clergy, and doctors. Ask them to explain these charges, known as funeral disbursement costs. The funeral director will make sure that both you and others, such as the person's doctor, complete all the necessary forms. There's a charge for some of these forms. The funeral director will pay these and then include them in your fee. You could consider organising your own orders of service and flowers to keep the costs down. Arranging a funeral without a funeral director. You don't have to use a funeral director. You could arrange a do-it-yourself funeral. These involve more organising but can save you money. If you want to arrange a funeral in your local cemetery or crematorium, contact your local council for advice. Whether you use a funeral director or not, make sure you look at what you are getting in return for your money when you are comparing prices. Like any industry, a personal recommendation is a good place to start. Talk to your local crematorium about funeral directors in the area. If the funeral is going into church, it's worth asking them for funeral directors they would recommend. Paying for a funeral. A funeral can be expensive as well as stressful. If you arrange the funeral, you are responsible for paying the bill. So check where the money will come from. Many funeral directors will ask for payment before the funeral takes place. The funeral can be paid for by you or other family members or friends, a lump sum from a life insurance policy, or a pension scheme the person paid into, a prepaid funeral plan the person took out, the person's estate, any money, property or assets they have left. Funeral costs take precedence over most other debts. Money the person had in a bank or a building society. Although these don't have to release the money until after probate is granted. Some funeral directors may accept a letter from a solicitor if they can confirm there are sufficient funds available from the deceased's address for them to go ahead with the funeral. If you are responsible for arranging the funeral and you're on a low income, you may be eligible for a funeral expenses payment from the Department of Work and Pensions to help cover the costs. A funeral expenses payment covers the costs of a simple funeral in the UK and includes up to £1,000 towards things like the coffin and the flowers. However, there are strict rules about who can get help and how much you will receive. For example, you must be claiming pension credit or certain other means-tested benefits, and you must have had a close relationship with the person who's died, such as a family member or partner. If you don't qualify for a funeral expenses payment, or it doesn't cover the full costs of the funeral, you may be able to get a budgeting loan or budgeting advance. These are interest-free loans of between £100 and £812 that you repay out of your benefit payments over time. Make sure you look at what you're from the department. If you don't qualify for funeral expenses plan payment. Thank you for watching. Please leave any comments below and consider subscribing to the channel. See you next time.